It's game night with the game nights once again, and as you probably have noticed, we are joined by my son, the Thunder God. How are you? Yes. My wife is asleep, so I'll look after him, just when we're doing some work, and I'm sure is going to be adding some very significant, insightful commentary to a film that I would not let him watch until he's over 16 years old at the minimum.
At the minimum.
Yeah.
Happened.
I mean, really insightful.
Completely agree, 100%.
Especially that last part. Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That was the previous one. Because they thought, hey, Thunder God, you're going to need to just be a little bit more quiet. They thought changing it up, the name up, so you would know what movie you're watching.
Wait, how'd they change it?
They added a "the" to it. Instead of Suicide Squad, this is The Suicide Squad.
Oh.
Because Suicide Squad 2, the sequel, or Suicide Squad subtitle,
Suicide Squad, we know the first one sucked. This is our second attempt. Give us a go.
And we got a funny director this time, who was cancelled but not cancelled now because he made his money.
That's just making it a bit too long there. You got to shorten it down a bit.
Oh, yeah, like Harley... No, what was it? Birds of Prey and the...
Fantabulous Adventure of Harley...
No, Fantabulous... it's not... What's the word where the women break free? It's not... It's...
Emancipation.
Emancipation. Why am I thinking emasculation? It's very similar words.
Loki, or the emasculation of a Norse god.
So they're clearly not averse to really long titles when they want to do this stuff.
Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, yeah.
No, but the Harley Quinn one was just a horror, but they did it. I reckon they should start naming the sequel movies or news after the new director, the Snyder Cut. We have precedent for it. There is literally a movie, that's identified by the director, the Snyder Cut. So this should just be Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version.
James Gunn. I mean, that's, his name's good for it. James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Is he a gun?
Yeah.
So he's a bit of a controversial figure, old Gunny.
Yeah.
I mean...
he said some spicy stuff. Jokes I wouldn't even make. And I've said some messed
that's
up
saying
things.
something,
Yeah, that's
right?
saying something.
He did really good job with Guardians of the Galaxy.
He did.
You can't deny, that he knows some good comedic timing.
He's good with ensemble casts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think, it's not his best work by far, but it's a lot better than the other Suicide Squad. I'm against, cancelling, just going back on the James Gunn thing, pretty broadly, except for extreme situations, but this is where it gets difficult, because the people who are all cancelled happy think these are all the extreme situations that justify it. Because, I'd say Harvey Weinstein, it's pretty good that he was cancelled.
Well, I mean, it's not like he was cancelled so much as he was, removed from public life because of what he did. I think there's a difference between cancellation and just leaving public life because you're a scumbag. I think there's a big difference. Because cancellation is, Gina Carano says something bad on the internet that people disagree with. It wasn't even bad, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, thousands of people, mob her and she's gone, right? Yeah. Versus a guy turns out to be a sex offender and just naturally leaves the public spotlight, because it seems to be those are the two options you have nowadays.
Yeah. I think there is a scale still of, badness, but it really seems like the extremists on, certain political leanings, anything that offends them, even the slightest, is cancelable.
Well, that you say that, it was actually the right who attempted to get, and successfully did for a little bit there, get James Gunn cancelled. Do you know why?
That was jokes about pedophilia?
No, but the reason they did it.
Hey, Thunder God, we just need you to be a little bit quiet, okay?
The reason they
This is what happens when you have kids, okay? Just embrace it, enjoy the disruption and distraction, because when you become a parent, you learn to just phase it out. Did you realise how much I'm able to just unzone the kid noise and just keep going? But obviously it gets to a level where I think it's not bothering me, but I think the audience is probably going to be getting a bit just to the extreme level. So I'm like, all right, son, time to calm down just a little bit. No, but it's good to cultivate your ability to just let your children be children to the point where when they start to potentially harm them, so that's when you might want to step in.
Yeah, step in when they're about to see if they can fly from the roof. like have a pillow or something on the ground just to be safe. Anyway, yeah, no. The reason the right, in particular, the hacker known as 4chan, tried to cancel James Gunn is because just to show how ridiculous cancel culture is. They're like, oh, hey, he said some spicy stuff. Let's, make the left eat their own once again, and they did.
And they did. But there were people on the right that went after Gunn as well because...
No, I know they did.
Yeah, because of the type of, jokes that
That's
he was
my point,
making.
though. That's the point they were making, is that the left will eat their own, the right jump...
Well, that's the thing. Like, the right do go cancel culture mentality as well.
Yeah.
It's not just a thing that we see. And I'm mostly against it unless... I'm trying to... Like, this. I'm actually still trying to determine what are... the lines, When is it appropriate to actually, when someone has done something bad enough to say, all right, I'm not going to support him? Because I'm already in practice of certain cancel culture things. Like, I will not support Games Workshop now because of the scummy things they're doing.
Yeah.
That's a type of cancel culture that I'm practicing. I'm trying to not support Disney in many instances.
That's not cancel culture. That's just you choosing not to be a customer of something because they're business practice.
But I think, that's a bit more of an arbitrary distinction. It's weird that, look...
Really?
In game nights, we go off on tangents, and just because of the nature of the director of this film, it's creating an interesting conversation. I don't see too much of a difference between trying to cancel a brand or cancel a person.
That's their business practice.
Like, again, people will try and cancel a brand or business based on individual comments and things that, like they did it with Papa John's and stuff.
Yeah, but like there's a difference between... I don't know, someone making jokes, right, on the internet, and then a company going after individuals to try and lock out people from their,
To me, it comes from the exact same mentality. It's just a different target, a company versus an individual.
I mean, they're completely different things. One's a business practice, and one is someone making dumb jokes.
The cause of it, though, like, cancel culture isn't just about dumb jokes for individuals. It's about anything that people get offended by that they don't want to support.
What if it comes out that, I don't know, this isn't true, right? But what if it comes out that Macca's is using human meat in their burgers? Would it be cancel culture to say, I'm not buying Macca's anymore?
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't. You'd be like, oh, they're using that human meat. I don't like their business practice.
No, I think that's you just trying to justify a cancel culture mentality that you would adopt, but you don't want to say you're being cancel culture because you feel that's more justified. Like, for instance, flip it on the other side, when Gillette, they made an ad that was just really insulting to men and masculinity in general.
Yeah.
I'll never buy a Gillette product
I don't think
again.
that's cancel culture.
I think it is.
I don't think so. Okay, if they depose a king in Libya, is that cancel culture?
No, that's a revolution.
Why not? Why isn't it cancel culture? It's a group of people coming together to remove someone from their position of power or job or whatever, so they can just get rid of them for whatever reason. What is your definition of cancel culture? What is it? What is the exact definition of cancel culture for you?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out, because I don't agree with the definition you're using. Because
I don't even have a real definition for it. I'd say I just know when it is.
How could you say one is one or the other?
Well, because it's like you can tell what, pornography is without,
I do have a definition of pornography, but that's another subject. So, regardless of the discussion of what it is, I'm trying to find the standard of when is it justified to withdraw your support from either an individual or a company based on their actions? Because I feel there is a line which justifies you doing that. Part of me, I'm starting to figure out what one possible thing is hypocrisy. Okay? If people are trying to cancel, like, withdraw their support for people when they do not withdraw that same support for other people or companies that are doing equally same things or worse, that person is a scumbag and a hypocrite. I shouldn't even support them. Because we see hypocrites on these companies all the time. Like, for instance, Disney firing Gina Carano, but not someone else. Okay, and people trying to cancel James Gunn, right, for a joke. Now, this is what I mean about hypocrisy. There are people who have done easily as bad, spicy types jokes and humour as James Gunn, right? And the reason why I don't feel that James Gunn one is worthy of cancellation is because that's clearly not a standard that's applied universally, whereas, say, sexual assault is. Yeah. And so I think,
even then.
to me, I think the line, this is just me thinking out loud, me trying to work out my own thing. Hey, Thunder God. This is why we call him Thunder God. You should hear him when he's really upset. The line, right, I feel, is when the action is universally agreed upon of the immoral act or whatever. That's usually, like, for instance, sexual assault, everyone agrees that's horrible.
So it's just the amount of people.
But I would say a universal consensus is not perfect by any means, but it's better than the current standard.
No, but there is no universal consensus, just a more amount of people than...
Yeah, but
versus the
I
other
mean, there's
one.
obviously a critical mass element to it where who would say sexual assault, like, is ever, okay, like, would you support anyone who is legitimately, not just, accused, but legitimately guilty of sexual assault? Who would want to support them?
Okay, so I know for certain, I know with absolute certainty they've sexually assaulted someone.
Yeah.
So I've seen it.
No, but we have recordings of, say, Weinstein doing it.
Oh,
We have
okay,
definitive proof for Weinstein.
taking away any possibility of how I know, I just know with certainty they did it.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't support that person.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's there's one example of almost a universal bad action
Yeah.
that either a company or an individual does where I think it's justified to withdraw. But for
Yeah.
instance, a spicy joke, right? This is where I think I'd like, if we were to, and I'm not even saying, let me just say, express this, let me know what you think, okay, because I might not even agree with this out once I flesh it out more, right? Is that trying to cancel someone for a spicy joke, right, when they're willing to support other people for equally spicy jokes,
Yeah.
okay, therefore, any spicy joke should be permissible, because if you're willing to permit one, you should permit it all. Because of humor is humor, right?
I think the difference there is context. You see, like,
Context?
for example, with comedians, right? You can tell when you can hear their voice, you can tell when they're telling a joke. That's what they're on their stage for. With Twitter, though, they can literally get, out of a few years of tweets, they can just get, here's one. And there's a difference between a comedian explaining something, you hear everything, you hear the context of their tone of voice, timing, everything like that, versus you just reading a tweet,
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
them put together at once. So
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
the whole
context.
Kevin Hart situation.
What happened with Kevin Hart?
He got cancelled because he was saying he didn't want his son to be gay in a comedic skit.
What? Okay, like, what's wrong with wanting your kids to have a biological, like...
I think, well, this again, about consistency. If you feel it's justified to encourage someone to be gay, equally that should be then you are allowing encouragement for sexual preference.
Yeah.
That's your standard. And so how can you be upset then if someone is encouraged someone to not be gay? Again, I see a moral equivalence in that sense. So, again, it's about hypocrisy where I'm finding you could actually apply a more standard principle of cancel culture in
Yeah.
that sense. And so any type of cancellation, I'm starting to feel, is unjustified when there are people doing morally equivalent things that are not getting cancelled by them. Therefore, anyway. And so with James Gunn, because it's a spicy joke, I don't think he deserved to be cancelled. Even if I thought the joke was in legitimate bad taste, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Okay?
The jokes...
Apply consistent standards.
The jokes that he made weren't really that funny. Comedians who have made worse jokes, like Ricky Gervais, Jimmy Carr, like they've made legit.
Bill Burr.
No, Bill Burr hasn't made worse jokes than that,
He's been some pretty darn spicy ones.
dude.
No, like even in retelling like another, Bill Burr, just context and again with game nights, we like tangents, we like going in depth. If it goes on like. Even if the movie we're supposed to be reviewing is a jumping off point for discussion, we're happy with that. And we hope you'll be happy for it as well. We'll get to the Suicide Squad in more detail, right?
Yeah.
So Bill Burr, he was giving an example of like how extreme comedy can get and why, and stop, getting offended. Another comedian was saying a joke that offended someone, and someone in the audience stood up and said, "Hey, my wife died of," it was probably cancer, "My wife died of cancer." And Bill Burr then he didn't say this, but he was retelling this other comedian saying, it's like, "Good, let's dig her up and..."
That's still not as bad.
We have a child in the room, people. We're not...
That's still nowhere near as bad as jokes that Ricky Gervais and Jimmy Carr have made.
You reckon?
No, not even close. They have made like molestation jokes about like the Catholic Church and stuff like that, and like stuff that would make you be like, how could you possibly say that and not get cancelled?
Well, what's the cancelled comedian who was the redheaded guy?
Carrot Top? Probably not him. I don't know. Who?
Yeah, everyone's gonna know in the comment. It was like really popular.
JP Sears, who is a genius. Check him out on YouTube.
He got cancelled for pleasuring himself in front of women.
Oh, Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
Good old Louis. Oh, man.
He actually has a legitimately hilarious bit about this molester in his neighborhood.
Molestering, yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how he can bring people to the line and then and then bring them
What
back.
What was the joke?
Oh, he was just talking about how there was this known child kind of molesting guy in his neighborhood.
As there often are in neighborhoods these days.
And everyone knew about it when he was growing up.
Yeah.
And
just picture. Oh yeah, that's the.
And then-
this is the village molester. He lives just down the road.
And he was
Don't
very-
trick or treat at that house.
He was making a comparison that it must be really good. Like, this is him saying it, right?
Say it.
Because, you know, if they made eating Mars bars illegal, he would probably stop eating Mars bars. He doesn't want to go to jail. But molesting children is illegal, yet they still do it. So it must be... I'm repeating it. I do not endorse. I do not endorse.
Dude. Oh, and he didn't
Look
get
it up, though. It's actually...
And he got cancelled for having a tug at a Hollywood party. Like,
and not that.
And not that.
And again, I get there's limits that people are willing to allow people to get away with because he was very much against, you know, the political right and stuff. And so the left were reluctant to go after him for a while because he would make fun of... what's her name? The Republican candidate who was...
Donald Trump.
No, the female one who was like all guns and... Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
she's
would...
so hot.
He would make fun of her, like, savagely.
Yeah.
And so, of course, people on the left, well, she's the political enemy, so all power to him. So anyway, ultimately, I don't think James Gunn deserved to be cancelled, yet
me neither.
the jokes were in such bad taste, I'd be like,
They were just not fun. Like, again, it's context. Humor is about context entirely.
Yeah.
Humor is entirely dependent on context. Without the context of a joke, you don't have a joke.
This is true.
Anyway, yeah.
So James Gunn brings his irreverent kind of humour to Suicide, and like the Suicide Squad, and it actually suits it quite well.
Yep.
Like the Suicide Squad is a dark property to be its villains being forced to fight crime with explosive devices in their necks if they so the violence is ramped up to 11 in it.
Yeah.
There's dark humour. Some of it misses, some of it lands, and so. All up, I would actually probably give this Suicide Squad like a 6 or... You'd have to push me to a 7 maybe, but I'm on the line, but 6 or 7.
Let's talk about why it was better than the first, because I have a few reasons. Okay, so first reason. The first one was, I'm pretty sure, M or PG. We have M in Australia, I'm pretty sure they have PG and then R in America. First
No, PG, PG-13, then R.
Okay, so the one in America, the first Suicide Squad was PG-13. So whenever the head blew up, it was just smoke that you saw. You didn't see the blood or anything, right? In this one, you see brains and gore.
Yeah.
That was the difference. That's one of the good things that James Gunn had. Also, there was no actual funny humour in the first one. Like, they try to make jokes.
Will Smith kind of pulls out one now and then.
There's
like when he's egging on the fire guy, and
that's not funny though.
It's like Will Smith is charismatic. You can
that's just a black guy yelling at a Mexican guy. You can see that at any street in LA.
But then afterwards, what did he say? It's like I forget the exact line. We're cool. I was
just trying to get you there. We're cool, right?
Yeah, in context, that could be a funny delivery. I could give it credit in some instances. I'm not saying it's a good movie or funny overall, but sometimes here and there they pull it.
Oh, there was one good joke from Harley Quinn in that movie where she's like, "We're all bad people on the inside except for Killer Croc. He's ugly on the outside too." That was funny. I'll give him that.
See, good.
But also the director, what's his name? James Ayer? Is it David Ayer? David Ayer. He does not know how to do characters that are consistent at all. Watch all of his movies. All of his characters are completely inconsistent. It's ridiculous. And he can't really do set pieces that well. Like, you know, for example, in Suicide Squad, you've got Captain Boomerang throwing the boomerang and, like, you see it through the air and stuff like that. With James Gunn, it's literally just showing the character shooting, showing the enemy get shot, right? But with James Gunn, it's like there's things flying everywhere, there's all these different, you know, like, that's the difference. That's why it was a boring movie.
I remember so little of the first Suicide because it was so bad. I think I've only watched it once, and... And all I remember is, like, there is such inconsistency in the plot as to why people are doing what and all these things, and nothing makes sense. And now I don't remember why because it's been so long since I watched it. The plot progression of this one, the sequel, makes most sense.
It's a bit jumpy. It's like a bit...
But you can see the through line.
Yeah.
There's not, like, why did he do that kind of stuff? It's like, okay, a lot of what they're doing... Some are a bit of a stretch, like... The guy, the leader, just happens to, you know, love Harley Quinn, and he tries
Who's
to.
the leader?
Yeah, the leader of this. It's almost like based off of Cuba.
Yeah.
The leader, how he falls in love with Harley Quinn.
Dude, if a female supervillain who was ultra hot and crazy for the D just fell into your lap,
no way, I would run the other way.
You would. I would not.
No.
Even if I knew she was gonna kill me. Okay, bro. Especially if she was going to kill me by crushing my head like a watermelon, right? Yeah.
So one of the enjoyable, stands out. I would almost say surprising, because they have misfired with this character so much, and it's Harlequin.
Yeah,
She was done surprisingly well. Honestly, Harlequin should be like a easy in the bag character. All you need to do is do her right and understand the character. And this is why she became popular in the animated series, and they transfer over to the cartoons. Like, she was created for the animated series, right? And like, my wife ended up Harlequin becoming one of her favorite characters, me playing DC superheroes online. And you come across Harlequin, you have to fight her, and she's so quirky and funny in just the video game, just funny little stuff. Like, she fights you with a big hammer, and as you're fighting her, she's like, if I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, I'd hammer all over your face. And she's just funny and quirky and silly, and my wife ended up really liking her.
I think I've just got a bit of Harley Quinn burnout, because like you said, and I've only
They've been trying to push her in our faces a lot recently, and they've all been misfires, except for like this. I think this is like, okay, they kind of made her work.
Yeah.
She's funny and quirky. Like, spoilers, by the way. This is your warning, all spoilery. Like, when she just shoots a guy, I was like, I said to myself that, as soon as I come across it, if there's any red flags, I'm just going to murder him.
That was pretty good.
It was good,
Yeah.
She's funny and quirky and done well. It's like, I'm meant to have this stuff. I don't know why, but it'll be revealed to me. I have this stuff for a reason, okay?
Yeah, I did like that beginning segment. That was probably my favourite part of the movie.
See, they made her work. James Gunn made her work. I don't think it's the best version of Harley Quinn, but it's enjoyable, and I think it was more true to the funny quirkiness of the character than many other things, which uplifted the film a decent amount.
If we could get the costume from the first movie and put it into the second movie, I think that would work well. Because I too have only seen Suicide Squad once, but I've seen all the Harley Quinn scenes in that movie at least 45 times.
So, okay. There was a really big dumb moment for me in this film. We'll get there.
What, the shark?
No. Oh, the shark was funny.
Yeah, he was.
It was just... See, again, ultimately, there were good, consistent, funny characters. Like, for me, the standouts were Harlequin, the shark, and the Liberty guy with the toilet on his head. John Cena. Was it John Cena?
I think he was the best, not only the best character in the movie, but the best, portrayal of a character in the movie. It was the ultimate autist gun nut who's like, yeah, I'm all this, that, and that.
For liberty,
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, he's literally just a cold-hearted autistic murderer. That was perfectly played.
And he's a former wrestler, this guy, right?
Yeah, John Cena.
And I think I've tried to see one other movie he's in, and his acting was awful. But this one, it was fine. It was possible, and to me, he was one of the standouts. And it's funny that these are all sideline characters.
Yeah.
Bloodsport is supposed to be the main one. And he was just,
It was Idris Elba.
Idris Elba is great, but the character's just,
we're going to have a cool black guy shooting guns.
I'm angsty, and I'm here against my will, and I'm only doing it because I hate my daughter, but they threatened my daughter, so I'm here, and I'm going to shoot stuff. And I'm Idris Elba.
You got a black guy with guns who's grizzly, who was an assassin in the previous life, and is doing it for his daughter.
It's a complete, we couldn't get Will Smith, so F you, Will Smith, we'll just do a complete replacement.
What was Deadshot's mask? It's like a skull sort of thing.
I can't remember, yeah.
What was the other guy's mask? It was like the opposite end of the skull,
And what I find funny is, I'm not sure if this was on purpose or not, but then they decided to make a complete clone character of Bloodsport, even though Bloodsport was a complete clone character of Deadshot, and the clone character was the Liberty guy. What's his name? Peacemaker. And they even say it. You're just a copy of me. Because even the intro that Amanda Waller gives is word for word the same intro as Bloodsport, trained by assassins, excellent with all these skills. Yeah. And then they have the rivalry and stuff. And I wonder if that's like a, when you admit something out in the open, where it's like, we know Bloodsport's a replacement of Deadshot, and just to make we know it, we're going to do a replacement, And if that is the case, I think it's very clever, very well done. Honestly, I did not miss Will Smith's character at all in this. But the thing is, Will Smith's character was more charismatic because it's Will Smith.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Because Idris Elba was just serious Idris Elba, angsty, and I shoot stuff.
Yeah, but Will Smith acts the same in every single movie.
Yeah,
that's not charisma.
That's part of his appeal, though, because you like Will Smith being Will Smith. I actually don't think that is great acting, okay? But actors legitimately get a career built around that thing.
Yeah, the
I consider truly talented actors who, when they play another character, you can't even recognize them from another
That's what
character.
acting is.
That's what real acting is. Johnny Depp is a master at it.
Yes.
Like, look at some of the characters he's played, and I mean, perfect example is Captain Jack, right?
Yeah.
Like, he that is true acting. And so I think he's a far superior actor to, say, like Will Smith.
Yeah.
But Will Smith is charismatic and funny. And so...
But what I think happens is that, kind of like falling into pride, it's the same sort of thing. You find your niche as an actor and you stay in that.
Just an interesting anecdote on this subject, okay? So the short film for my novel is we're ramping up, we're moving ahead. And so far it looks like I am able to fly to Canada for it. And you think that this is related because we've been doing rehearsals. We've been Zoom call rehearsals, going through the script, and I'm playing a character in it. Again, if everything goes well, okay? And what's interesting is, at first I wanted to try and make the character not feel like me. When you see, oh, that's clearly Shadowversity, and so I gave him a different voice. I'm playing Detective Dane, if you don't.
Let's hear your voice, please.
So it's a very simple change where this was Detective Dane's voice, and he just talks a little bit more gruff and force and everything like that. But you know, the director, they said, look, we just want to see what it's like you using your normal accent. All right, and I did that. I was like, all right, I'll do it. And using my normal accents, I just like, all right, I'll use my normal tone, expressions, everything. The thing was, the script read when I did that was far more natural because I was just using my natural mannerisms and stuff, and to the point where everyone else preferred that heaps more. And I was thinking, man, if I ever do get into an acting thing, people are just going to want me to act like Shad me. Like, but the thing is, if it gives a more authentic performance compared to me when I try and make it sell a completely different character, well, I'll take it, you know.
What about...
So I might be one of those character actors, like, where I'm just playing different versions of me in different... if my acting career takes off.
Why wouldn't you do a British or Scottish accent if you're doing, like, a character who's in that sort of...
Well,
Can you do
my world setting has a lot of freedom for different style accents.
Okay.
And so... my accent is weird. It's not like it's not ochre Australian, and a lot of people mistake me for thinking I sound British or Canadian.
What?
Usually it's more British. People think I've...
You don't sound British. I sound British. I get mistaken for British all the time. All the time.
Really?
Yeah.
So anyway, random aside, talking about acting and stuff.
Yeah.
Idris Elba was... Like, to me, Idris Elba was just playing Idris Elba. Like, I didn't see any, you know, elevated acting from him. Yeah. And so he was bland, and I didn't... But at least there were other interesting characters that were more enjoyable.
I guess I just didn't want... Will Smith again, you know, because I've just seen him in everything.
Well, see, that's the thing. If I was to pick an Idris Elba playing Idris Elba or Will Smith playing Will Smith, I'd always pick Will Smith because it's enjoyable and charismatic. And Will Smith can do dramatic acting and emote and get real, you know, like, have you seen him in iRobot, you know? Like, he can do it.
I love that movie.
Great movie.
That's a great movie.
Great movie. And he's dealing with some trauma in that movie, and so he's got good range.
I think I was a bit too hard on Will Smith. I'm sorry, Will Smith. You're actually a decent actor.
He does have good range.
Yeah.
In terms of playing people that are not Will Smith, it's like someone like Johnny Depp is much better. So, all right, so characters, there's all, you know, those are our views on the characters.
We didn't talk about Ratcatcher. Bro, I got a mean crush for Ratcatcher.
No.
Too. Yes.
No.
Yes.
I like Polka Dot Man more than Ratcatcher. No, he was funny.
He was funny.
Like, his, you know... issues with his mum.
Yeah,
I love that.
That was funny.
That was great.
That was funny
because it was his mum that gave him like, it's an interdimensional disease.
Yes.
I freaking loved it.
That was funny. A bit too close to home for me, but I preferred Ratcatcher because everybody wants a lazy Puerto Rican girl. She's Puerto Rican, right?
I don't know. No, everyone doesn't want that.
I kind of do.
No.
I thought she was Israeli.
You know, I have an issue with Ratcatcher.
What?
Purely because this was the biggest dumb moment in the film for me.
Yeah, you told me about it. Go on, tell me.
This is a dumb movie, okay? And so to me, it takes something... See, like, it's weird why this is... more unrealistic to me that it pulled me out of the film than a giant alien starfish. But I can accept a giant alien starfish. It's an alien, okay?
No,
it
this is
weird.
Patrick.
Yeah, I can accept that, right? My suspension of disbelief is fine because I can accept if an alien exists, possibly an alien could exist. All right. If I was to call every rat in the city, like, it's not hard to just get a very basic, intuitive kind of estimate on how many rats would be in a city. She pulls out, like, all the rats in the friggin' world. It's insane how many rats there are. It's like, where do they all come from? If you were to give a generous amount of, like, even 100 rats per building, you would not even come close to the insane amount of rats that come out when she does her big thing.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that that's what pulled me out, but it did. I was just like, I could have went with you to a certain amount, but now it's just ridiculous. It's legitimately more ridiculous than a giant alien starfish.
Yeah.
The insane, like, we watched the insane amount of rats that
Like
just
it's hideaway.
materialize out of the ground. And all, like, it's like they're literally just being summoned from the nether.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what would
Maybe that's
even...
her power.
I could have accepted an unrealistic superpower that she can summon rats from other parts in the globe more than being able to try and tell me there was that amount of rats just hiding in the walls in the city. Like, it's so weird. Like, again, because there are certain standards that make certain elements of suspension of disbelief easy in a universe like this. Oh, portals that are linked to rats to just be able to summon them from all over the world, and she has it because of this glow stick. I can accept that easier because the universe allows for stuff like that. But there are other basic laws of physics. There is nothing to indicate rats being like in this universe where they're just everywhere. And so when that number comes out, I was like, oh, this is dumb. Isn't that sad? But I feel it's perfectly justified because of the standards that you can apply, which allows certain elements of your disbelief to be suspended, and others you expect things to play out.
Well, I can accept a giant walking starfish. I can accept a lot of rats.
I was like, there's way too many rats. It's just too many. But the thing is, though, if that's one of my biggest criticisms of the film, like, there are other more bland, so there's not things that, for me, irrevocably broke the film. Granted, I wasn't watching it, like, trying to study, look for everything, so I'm actually quite confident someone like Mauler would be able to pick out, what, you missed this shot? And I was like, oh, okay, pointing that out, right?
Yeah, but
Mauler's a master at that. Mauler's a master at that.
You liked Snyder Cut at first.
No, I still enjoyed...
You were happy.
No, I still enjoyed Snyder Cut more.
I did not.
But in terms of what it would be objectively better, you know, there's some good points Mauler brought up. The thing is, though, when I go into a film, all right, I'm going to pay attention, let's really break down. Mauler and I usually fall into alignment 100% on stuff, because there is a great critical standard that you can apply to movies and everything. Here's the little guy asleep.
He's asleep, yeah.
Hey, success! You see, parenting tip. Just let them run themselves down. Like
Every storm must pass.
Exactly. So the Thunder God is asleep now. We let him rage.
Yep.
And now he's asleep.
You've made it this far.
So, in terms of why just my current feeling on the film is 6, not great, because there wasn't many other elements that just made me go, I'm loving this.
Yeah.
That just blew me away. The characters were passable, entertaining in some elements. There were a lot of other bland ones. The plot was fairly basic, so there was nothing creative to make me go, wow, but there was nothing terrible to make me really pull me out in terms of why we're here, what we're doing. It's like, oh, Nazis ended up studying an alien thing, and one of the head scientists were one of the astronauts that discovered it, and he ended up becoming a weird villain. And the US government was helping with the funding the study of it, and so the plan is send the Suicide Squad in to get rid of the experiment, but a mission to remove evidence that
incriminate. There's too many things in this movie.
No. This is all very basic and simple progression of events.
But it didn't come out like that, though.
Well, then they wanted to get the... so I'll just continue my narrative, right? Remove evidence that incriminated the US, and that's the setup. They send 2 teams.
That's not the setup.
That is the setup.
No, that came out at the very end of the movie.
No, but the plan to remove the evidence was obviously in place before they were sent to do that, because Peacemaker, that was his goal.
I know, but my point is, us as viewers, That's not how it happened. It started with, you're going to go to this island and you're going to destroy this building. Then it went to, you're going to go to this island, you're going to capture this scientist so you can destroy this building. You're going to go to this, you're going to capture the scientist.
I do admit that them needing to rescue Harley Quinn, that's really not, like, why did they justify it? Because they run into the guy who was on the other two, Rick Flag?
Rick Flag, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, we have to rescue Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Don't really know why.
The pacing and setups were awful is the point I'm trying to make. Like, they didn't have, like, for example, with a regular superhero movie, you know who the villain is at the beginning, you kind of generally see how things are going to go. Like, the story beats aren't in the right spot. You've got, okay, go destroy the building, alright, go capture the scientist so you can destroy the building, alright, you got to save Harley Quinn as well, alright. It wasn't just destroy the building, the Nazis experimented on this. Oh wait, no they didn't, it's the US government, like... And then
see, that's all fine. That's like
no, because it's just too many story beats in 1 second.
To me, like no,
it's like
like disjointed story beats. If you want that, you look to Rise of Skywalker, right? This one, the story beats had a connective through line where we get to the island.
Yeah, they were connected, but they were
we get to the island and we think. All right, so 2 people get to the island, 1 team gets destroyed, other team survives. They think they find a bad guy place. They kill everyone, and so. That's an interesting kind of comedic drop, like where they kill everyone. And it's like they were the good guys, funny. And like
no one else heard though.
I know. See, there are elements like what you tell me. No one heard this. The explosions happening right outside. And
they set people on fire.
And the leap that the leader is then will still work with these insane murders that just killed like people I loved and cared for.
To be fair, it was an accident, so
you know, and so. This is where it's interesting. Like, can you disregard the unrealism for the sake of the joke? Because it was a bit of a fun. It's like, no, we didn't see anyone out there, you know?
Well, realistically, what choice did they have? What's she going to be like, oh, these guys just killed a man, kill them? No, because then they'd all die.
Yeah, you would die too.
Yeah.
And they're willing to help. So you could try and justify it maybe, but she got over it pretty darn quickly. That's all I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
And... so, look, all fine. Then Rick Flag says, how did they discover Harley Quinn was captured? No, because they didn't even know she was... I forget. How did they discover... see.
I don't know, wouldn't Amanda Waller know? She has plants in her head.
They discovered she was alive and needed to rescue her, and I can't remember when or why they... Like, because really, for the success of the mission, it's not necessary. Like, they were so willing for everyone else to die on that other team.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn's just another casualty. Do your friggin' mission. But it's the flag guy... And he doesn't wear flags, but his name is Rick Flag.
That's his name.
Yeah.
His last name's Flag.
Flag.
Rick Flag.
So I understand them needing to capture the scientist guy to get access. That makes sense.
Yeah, sure, but it's not. They could have done around it. You know, they didn't have to have that happen.
Easiest way to get in there. He's got the passcodes.
Yeah, but my point is that there's ways you could write it so they don't have to do that.
Yeah, but. I think just because they want that character involved and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's an issue for me. My point is that they have so many things, they could have just picked a few instead.
Yeah, but I can accept that. That's fine. And then they try to rescue Harley Quinn. She breaks out herself. The ease of her breakout is obviously a bit... Like, this is again one of those moments where I admit I was getting pulled out because, like... Oh, the guy that's left to guard Harley Quinn is going to just conveniently stand close enough for her to kill him. It's like, gee, that's a smart guard, you know? She's this dangerous woman. It's like, you might want to keep your distance, okay? Yeah. And then, actually, this is, again, one of those... Margot Robbie. She's a slim, attractive woman, undeniable, right? But slim. She's not strong.
Well, she has superpowers.
No, she doesn't.
She does.
Where? Harley Quinn is just
jumped into
crazy.
The chemical.
But that just made her crazy. It didn't make her, like, super strong.
It gave the Joker powers.
Let us know in the comments. I wasn't under the impression she had any higher physical capacity.
They're not peak human, but they have higher physical capacity and higher tolerance.
But, because I don't know, mate, like, if she has superpowers, this would answer this problem. But when she legitimately pulls up herself and the guy off the ground with those chains, and it's skinny Margaret Robbie, I was like... You know? And then the fights where she breaks out, it was like, it's one of those times when... No one decides to use guns.
Yeah, that's
like
me.
There are people like meters down there, like, and there are people who come to attack her off screen, and they're just not using guns, or they had guns. It's like, but if you attack off screen, why are you?
Well, no, they've got guns and they're pointed at her, but like she'll like throw a knife, right?
And the knife hits them before they decide to pull the trigger.
Like that just annoys me. I hate when they do that. At least with John Wick, it's like he's.
Well, no, wait.
What?
John Wick 1, yes.
Yeah, John Wick 1.
All other John Wicks, no friggin' way.
Yeah, I agree with
They
that.
lose the plot after John Wick 1. John Wick 1 was great, where it seems like it's taking count of like cover and making sure it's not just standing there to get hit. The other John Wicks, there's generally times where he's just standing and other people shooting at him and never hitting him at all. Like in multiple times in every other John Wick movie. Like, they lost the plot with that.
I love Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves is great, but it turned into the same type of just garbage, like the hero never getting shot. And just,
To be fair, though, when does the hero get shot?
yeah, like John Wick
Apart from
1.
Iron Man and Superman.
John Wick 1 did a great example of making it believable why the hero doesn't get shot, because he's being smart, he's taking cover, and he's taking into account that the enemy has guns, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's in every gun moment of John Wick 1 it's done perfectly, but for the most part that was my impression and memory from, and it
And he goes in stealthy.
But there are times in the other John Wick movies where like literally he's just standing in front of other people and either they're standing doing nothing or they're firing at him and just never hitting it. And so yeah, the Harley Quinn breakout scene was exactly one of those moments.
They could have done it in better ways too.
The thing is,
where
though,
it's more realistic.
this is why people will just give it a complete pass. Because it was fun and it flowed really well, and there's a lot of movement and there's music, and then one moment, the one thing I did like about it, and again, this is like, I think just, is it James Gunn who made it? If he decided to do this, is creative and clever, where flowers start to spurt out of people, and then no one needs to tell you, but this is what Harlequin is seeing in her mind because she's crazy.
Yeah.
And it was done really well, and you knew that this was just one of the crazy projections Harlequin did because she's nuts, and it was funny and comical and enjoyable because of that, because she's slaughtering people, but
there's flowers pretty.
everywhere. Like,
what a quirky Tumblr girl.
Like, but again, not doing some fun things with Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Elevating the movie. And so because of that kind of creative thing, people aren't going to really even... Because, again, I think people are so used to just heroes never getting hit by guns and everything, and they're not paying attention to that element. This is one of those ultra-anal kind of things that because I love more realistic stuff, and I feel you can achieve things that are just as enjoyable and action-packed with more realism. And then your immersions...
I think it's pretty arbitrary, to be honest.
I think you can do both. Do both and succeed.
I think it's more important about getting the story more consistent.
See, that's what people tend to side with. But I don't like that excuse for stupidity. I think you could achieve just as, enjoyable, entertaining elements in the story and narrative while maintaining realism as well, where it's needed. I'm not saying the starfish, okay? I get the arguments, idiots. If anyone was going to make that argument,
I was.
Well, you're an idiot.
If things in the story happen to serve the story.
No, you know why realism is important when realism is needed?
Why?
Immersion.
Yeah, but again, when realism is needed is arbitrary. If it's a story about, whatever.
If you're more mindful of it, you're going to cover your bases more. I agree. Because I'm not saying everything 100% needs sound in space. I don't think you need sound in space. I don't think you need silence in space, because that's how realistically, because the sound in space conveys impact, drama, dramatic, immersion.
Yeah, but it's completely unrealistic.
Yeah, and so there's a scale.
Seems pretty arbitrary.
No, there's a scale. And I'm saying that even for me, there are limits where I'm like, yeah, okay, I think this is a fine
Who decides the scale?
I'm trying to encourage people to have a more strict scale.
So it's basically your scale?
That I'm trying to encourage people to agree with.
Definition of arbitrary.
No, but I think my scale is better.
I'm not saying it's bad. We all have arbitrary scales.
Yeah, but my scale is better. Because you absolutely loved Stormlight Archives.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know one of the things that elevates Stormlight Archives?
What?
Is Brandon's attention to realism and immersion and cause and effect and natural results.
Yeah, but those go to serve the story. And I agree, cause and effect, right?
Yeah.
Because that's consistency.
Well, you know what? Pointing a gun at someone, pulling the trigger, the natural cause and effect is that usually the bullets have a high chance. Like, if you're offloading a friggin' machine gun pointed directly at someone and you tell me no bullet's going to miss, cause, effect.
We'll look at, any of the world wars, like gun line trenches, how anyone managed to survive. Sometimes miracles happen, but again, my point is...
saying miracles always happen for the heroes?
My point is it goes to serve the story, right? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense for the hero to get shot, boom, story's over.
Yeah, but you can, just like with John Wick 1, you can make it more believable as to why they don't get shot.
Yeah, but that serves
and
the
it
story.
elevates the story when you justify it realistically than just have them never getting hit when they're being sprayed at by a field of bullets, which is why the standard I'm trying to encourage people, I feel, is better. It will elevate storytelling storytelling, movies, because we've seen it. There are examples where writers like Brandon Sanderson, and I would even say myself with my own novel, check it out, when you pay attention to realism and cause and effect of just even natural laws of physics.
Well, realism and cause and effect are two different things in this context when you're talking about story.
No, they are inherently entwined.
Well, realism is what do you consider realism? The laws of physics, the way...
Realism, I feel, you could almost define as a natural progression of cause and effect, either in character emotions to the laws of physics you're establishing in a world.
Realism compared to what would be real then? Like...
The world operates on cause and effect all the time. We inherently and intuitively understand this because we see it everywhere.
Yeah, but seemingly random things happen in our world. Seemingly random.
Yeah,
they're not.
Exactly, they're not, because in the real world, everything is cause and effect. And so in a narrative, right, even though seemingly random things, okay, you know, obviously, are just the writer doing it when it happens almost like... not arbitrary, because everything is arbitrary in a story, and I get that this is your point, but it happens so much where we know chances would not duplicate those circumstances in the real world. For instance, whenever the person is in danger and they're about to be killed and they cannot defend themselves, someone else jumps in from the side and saves them suddenly. And we know it can happen, but obviously happening every single time a person is in danger is unrealistic, because that doesn't happen in the real world. And so that's that we can apply the standards of the real world to think, and this is why, because if you want an example of jump saves, instead of a jump scare, it's a jump save, where someone from a side screen just jumps in and saves someone, happening in an insanely ridiculous amount to the point where it pulls you out of the story. Last Hobbit movie. Everyone is being saved. Everyone is being jump saved in insane amount. Another example, The Long Night in last season of Game of Thrones, where, like, and Game of Thrones established, like, a realistic kind of gritty thing where if people are in a situation to die, oftentimes they're going to die.
In the first 4 seasons. After that, no.
And then suddenly, everyone's being saved because, and do you see what I mean about obviously people can be saved by chance, but if it happens too much, that's just like...
Well, my point is that, it's entirely arbitrary in story. Like, look at the Chernobyl case with those 3 guys who went under the water.
Yeah.
They literally should have died.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Sometimes miracles happen, but if you're saying that the hero is always miraculously saved in every sequence...
I'm not saying that.
Well, that's my point, is that you need a certain amount of realism.
My point is to point one out and to not point out the other is literally arbitrary. Whether you're right or wrong, it is arbitrary. That's my point.
Yeah, but even though things that happen in a fictional story, everything is arbitrary, it's the role of the writer to make it believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And... this is why realism is important, cause and effect, paying attention to all these things. And even going back to this Harlequin scene, okay? She's getting shot, like there are so many times when people just don't use guns when they have them, when they logically would, cause and effect, and when she's getting shot at and nothing hits her.
Yeah.
And so...
that's annoying.
Yeah, it pulls you, it's not realistic. And then you're not invested in the safety of the characters because they're never really at risk. Yeah, they're being saved by plot armor all the time, which is why this type of thing is bad in stories. Now, there is a scale. I'm the type of person who gets more annoyed about this stuff than other people. Most people, I actually think, on the large thing, they're not even going to notice it. But I still feel it's important.
Maybe they just they don't care.
I still feel it's important to even try and account for this annoying little minority of people that get annoyed, so you can make it more appealing to the largest group of people. That's how you write a successful story. Like Brandon Sanderson is a legend because he understands this, right? He saw my movie on, my video on Shadowversity on what fantasy, how general fantasy gets weapons wrong, the mistakes they make about weapons. And I actually pulled out a scene from one of the Stormlight Archive books that he misnamed one of the swords.
Oh.
He called a one-handed sword, which is an army sword, he called it a long sword, he misnamed it. And I just put it as an example that, and most people won't even care about that, but for sword enthusiasts like me, really care about it. And so you know what Brandon did on this?
He contacted you.
He hired me as his consultant on his next book for the weapons, and then he has these really complex scenes in the fourth Stormlight book with sophisticated sword fights and everything with certain characters that love weapons and stuff, and he got my direct input on it, and they're awesome scenes. People are loving them because they're more believable. And what's interesting about this, even people who don't know anything about swords, they actually read these scenes and they get immersed in it more because it has this sophistication that they're not even aware of. It's like, oh, this type of sword is better in this type of situation and stuff. And so even when you think you're catering for people that you know would only really care about it, it actually elevates it even more to people who you're not even paying attention to. And Brandon tries to do this for everything. Mental health, every single field that he is not fully aware of, even geography and stuff, he looks for experts to try and get it as believable as possible. This is why he's one of the best writers in the world.
Yeah.
And this is why I think other writers need to learn from this and do the same thing. And movies, to elevate their stories.
Well, they do that for movies, yeah.
Wow.
They do.
No. Hiring experts?
Yes.
Yeah, to do nothing. Just so they can say they had a consultant. I'm not kidding. Like, Lloyd from Lindy Beige got to talk with the historical consultant on the film. He didn't name the film, but it's really clear by context that it's Kingdom of Heaven. And, yeah. And so the consultant said, my role was to appear on set and eat biscuits and coffee for several days on end.
They didn't ask him anything.
They asked him one thing for the entire thing. They came to said, we've got this banner, and we can't decide if we need to put it at the head of the army or the back of the army. And the army is all infantry men. And the history consultant looked and said, that's a cavalry standard. It wasn't even a proper banner for the thing. It was like, it doesn't even apply, fit. So they ignored him and put it where they wanted to.
Again, like, I'd say, yeah, fair enough on the people making the move in that part. Like, you just want to have a cool thing with the banner and the, like, okay, fine, do it.
But your point about, I don't wholly agree with that point. I think you should try, especially with historical period films, you should try and be as accurate as possible with how things looked. They hire many consultants just to say they had a consultant on it. Like, the movie
I was
King
thinking of
Arthur.
gun consultants, because they bring on gun weapons experts to movies.
Oh, for safety and stuff.
Well, for a lot of things.
I'm not saying they ignore every single expert that they bring on, but a lot of like the historical consultants and things like that, like they're just to say we had them. The movie King Arthur, which had what's her name?
Is this the Clive Owen one?
The Clive Owen, I think it is.
It's Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley, yeah.
Keira Knightley. Oh.
She had Keira Knightley in it. They were trying to promote like this is a far more historically accurate film. You know, it's the most historically accurate King Arthur film ever made.
They seriously try to
in the trailers. It's like this is how it really happened, right?
This is how King Arthur really happened,
right?
King Arthur didn't happen. It's a story.
There are a couple of historical figures that they feel the tale is inspired by.
But it didn't happen. There's no Castle Camelot.
No,
there's not.
No, there's not.
There's no Lady of the Lake. If there was, Chad would go there to get a sword.
I would. And you know, then they were, and I'm sure they're like all these historical consultants that we talked with, and you know what I was like. This is our idea. The historical consultant is like, this is utter garbage. There's nothing. It's like, oh, thanks for your consultation.
Yeah.
We wrote a consultant right there.
Again, consultant, like, you don't have to go with what they say.
Exactly, right? Well, I was the weapons consultant for Stormlight 4, and he accepted so much of my feedback.
But if it's inconsequential, like a banner just hanging in the wind, I think that if you want to have a cool banner in the scene, we'll just do it.
Make it the right banner.
Okay.
Win-win! Wow!
Well, yeah, sure, make it the right banner. You want a banner? Okay, hey, is this banner right? It wouldn't be on that angle. It would be on this, like, just put the bloody banner in the movie.
Just be realistic.
No. How about no?
It takes no more effort to do it realistically than making one that isn't.
What if they've
you
already
still
made...
have banner.
What if they've already made the banner?
Then they're idiots for not consulting the right people before they made it.
Look, they want a banner in the shot, so just
make the right banner. It's not hard.
What if they brought out a cross and like, oh, here's because it's the Kingdom of Heaven, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, like, oh, sorry, that cross is not historically accurate. They didn't have crosses like that back in that time. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, make it their own.
Maybe I'm just not autistic enough.
You would clearly. How dare you? How could you even be on this show if you're not autistic enough?
Because I'm willing to practice.
That's almost a requirement.
I'm able to forgive the artist, because movies are made of lots of people. Not all of them know everything that you know, Shaq.
Yeah, but there are people in charge of other things, and all they need to do is do the proper work ahead of time, proper preparation, Done.
But if we have these experts at the top of these
Do you know-
fields
that-
deciding that, then you end
Oz,
up with messes like
do you
Suicide
know-
Squad 1, where the producers are like, hey, you need to have this, this, and this, and they chop up the movie and they make a mess.
No, Oz, sometimes...
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Oz, sometimes they go out of their way to put in more work to be unrealistic, and I am not kidding. Okay? Like Lloyd Lindy Page, I was having a chat with him, and this is actually on Shadiversity or Project Australia. Well, it was just an open discussion, and so there is a video of this talking about this, about importance of realism, and he gave one example of a historical kind of film, and could it have been, might not have been Braveheart. But anyway, instead of contacting all these reenactment groups, there's hundreds of them, and they have the most authentically pristine looking realistic kit and everything. They could have just gotten all these reenacted groups as the extras in the film, and job done. They wouldn't have needed to make anything.
Yeah.
The reenactors would have all brought it, okay? Instead of doing that, it's like, no, they don't look dirty enough. We want them to look dirty. So they hired extras, spent loads of money to make them look like a covered in dirt peasants and everything, to make them look like crap. And they spent more money to make it more unrealistic and worse than an easier option.
Yeah, but do you
amazing.
Do you know that they were aware of these reenactment groups?
Yes.
They were. You know for certainty the people making this movie were aware of these reenactment groups.
From what Lloyd told me, yes.
Okay, well I don't know about this particular thing, but yeah, that would have been smarter. But my point is, it's like, what do you call it? I had it in my head.
Sometimes, well, my point with this is that sometimes, and there's legitimate examples of this, doing the more realistically authentic thing, which would actually elevate the film and make it better, they actively avoid
sometimes.
because of tropes and traditions and the way they think they want it.
But you shouldn't chase realism at the cost of whatever, you know? Like
But
sometimes.
my point is, sometimes chasing realism is easier, and it doesn't cost anything, and you can achieve the same level of awesomeness, and it being more authentic and immersive as a result.
Not every time.
Most times, I reckon.
Again, I think the
Fight.
story should serve the story and not necessarily be. It doesn't have to be 100% real, you know. Like what do you call it? Hacksaw, not Hacksaw Ridge. Is it Hacksaw Ridge?
Hacksaw Ridge.
Which is the one where he's okay? I'm thinking of Heartbreak Ridge. Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge, right?
Hacksaw Ridge.
The part where like he grabs the gun to drag his squad leader along, right? Mm-hmm. Is that realistic? Did that happen?
That is historically plausible, which is fine.
Okay, whatever.
And that's a great
No,
movie.
I'm just done with the point.
But the thing is, if you actually want a great movie that really was paying attention to the historical details, Hacksaw Ridge is a great example. I've seen the making of.
Yeah.
And even the things that you think are more unbelievable legitimately happened. Like, it's one of those amazing films where...
I figured out what my point was before. My point was, it's like, in coding, there's this particular curse. It's like a thing where, like, let's say you go to do some debugging to find bugs in the code. You go back and fix them. That traditionally makes a lot more bugs in the code. Just you fixing one thing will create 2 more problems.
Yeah, but not universally.
No, my point, well, actually, almost, right?
But with code, maybe, not with a film.
Well, no, it's where the old adage, too many cooks in the kitchen.
No, if the cook just simply is paying attention to, he's like, all right, people, let's make it look this way.
Yeah, but what
Done.
if you have 50 other cooks who are all undermining that one cook? Like, oh, no, you've done it wrong here, let's fix that.
Why do you think you would always have that situation when you want to have a more realistic representation?
Because the movie is made by roughly, I don't know, 1,000 people.
Already,
right?
no.
And then you've got one guy
Oz, you're trying to create an arbitrary gold standard, immovable standard that...
No, I'm not. I'm trying to laxen the standards.
No, why do you think that just trying to be more historically accurate is going to make more cooks in the kitchen?
No, I'm just saying, don't be so committed to it.
Why not?
If you want to have a banner in the scene...
Why not?
My point is, if you want to have a banner in the scene, have a banner in the scene.
But my point is, you could have the more accurate banner without any additional work.
All right, guys, we can't shoot today. We have to go make a new banner.
No, just made the right banner in the first place.
Well, unfortunately, people make mistakes. And so for you to say...
Yeah, I'm not saying if you make a mistake that you have to derail the entire project to fix it. I'm saying don't make the mistake in the first place. And they would have done that if they just listened to the historical songs in the first place.
You know what? If only they made the World Trade Center not have beams that could melt. If only they did that. This is my point.
No, that's a retarded point. You know why?
Why?
Because it's easier to get a historical consultant to make a movie much better than changing the entire construction of a building. That's why what you said
is a false equivalence. Is that... Okay,
my point is, it's easy and it can be done.
Hypothetical situation. Exactly what you said happens. They're like, oh, we want a banner in this scene. Oh, they're like, the banners you have are the wrong ones. Okay, well, what do? Do they not have a banner in the scene to show
I
heraldry?
already answered that. What was my answer?
No, your answer was they should go back in time and have the...
No, it freaking wasn't.
What was it?
I already literally answered it, which means you're not paying attention because I'm going to repeat myself.
Shad, you say a lot of words. It's hard to get them all catalogued
I said,
perfectly by
if you're in a
mind.
situation, obviously you're just going to have to accept it as it is. But the better situation was to have planned beforehand.
So
I'm not saying mistakes. Oh, I'm not saying mistakes don't happen.
Yeah.
But you're trying to then say we should not bother in. You're trying to say we shouldn't bother avoiding mistakes then.
So
I'm saying, do you think we should try and avoid mistakes?
Avoiding the mistake...
Do you think we should try and avoid the mistakes?
You're asking me the question if
Yes.
avoiding the mistake is better than making the mistake.
Yes.
People.
The answer's obvious, isn't it?
Then why ask the...
Because by your logic...
Was that rhetorical, by the way?
Yes, it was.
Okay, well, there you go.
Right.
You didn't ask it rhetorically.
You're trying
Asked
to...
it retardedly.
You're trying to say we love each other, okay? Even though we get into each other.
No, eh?
That means we love each other too much.
All right, I think this is
That's
a good
one of
time.
those
Me and
legitimate...
Shadow together.
That's one of those legitimate, like, authentic word slips of the just horrible phrasing. Usually I do it on purpose for comedy, but that was like... Anyway.
Yeah, usually.
It seems like by your defense saying mistakes happen, we just have to accept it, you're trying to say that we shouldn't try and avoid the mistakes in the first place. Do you think we should try and avoid
Obviously, we should try and avoid mistakes.
That's my point. We agree.
But my point is that if you want to have the banner in the scene, but the bloody historical guy saying, no, that's the wrong banner, actually, no, I'm going to put the banner in the scene.
But-
I want the heraldry displayed.
But you would think that if this is a period film, you would have asked the historical consultant before you made the banner. That would have been the friggin' obvious choice.
Unfortunately.
And guess what? That's not harder to do. It's not, in fact, it's a lot easier.
You know the best
You know
TV show-
why? Instead of having to hire artists to make the banner and everything like that, pay them and go through the thing, you just say, historical consultant, what the banners look like. Here's a picture. Done.
Yeah, with
Save
2020
money.
hindsight, anything's possible, Shad. Right?
No. Like, it doesn't excuse it.
You've seen Band of Brothers, right?
Hey. Even saying, hindsight, that doesn't excuse it. This was a mistake. That could have
Where's
been
your
avoided.
forgiving attitude, Shad? I thought you were a Christian. You
Yeah.
can't forgive them for little...
That doesn't mean it never happened, Oz.
I mean, you move on from things if you forgive
Yeah,
them.
and you know what we do? We try and learn from them. So in the future, this is my point of pointing it out. People
But it's
are
not
making
the
stuff
same
in
guy
the future.
making all these movies. It's like
But
multiple
anyone,
different people.
like I'm an aspiring writer. Okay, I've learnt from many great
What's
examples.
a mistake you've made?
What in writing?
Yes.
The
fact that you haven't bought a new book out, that's a big mistake. And I will never forgive you for that.
You want to know whose fault that is?
You blaming me?
It's a collective
Are
thing.
you blaming me?
Hey,
it's my
the
fault?
extra stress that I have in trying to handle all these extra projects and employees I have, it's just been I have not been able to get in the frame of mind.
You heard it here
right.
first. It's my fault he hasn't released a new book yet.
Yep.
Entirely my fault.
Because I said entirely and universally his. Obviously, you could go back in time and see word for word. That's exactly what I said, right?
You know what me and Shad's problem is? We often do the exact same thing to each other, but like at different moments. That's the issue. That's why it's projection. It's projection. And it's only when I go back and rewatch these things when I'm editing them that I realise that I've done the same thing you did like 5 minutes ago, and then it's round and round in circles. Anyway, what are we meant to be talking about? Suicide Squad?
You know that you think there's a big mistake I did with my writing.
What?
In regards to a certain character, but it's open for a debate, and it's a spoiler, so don't even mention
Well,
it.
can you...
No, I'm not mentioning it. I don't want to spoil it.
Was it the rape thing?
No.
By the way, rape's bad.
Yeah,
It
it is
wasn't the
bad.
rape thing. Okay. I don't know what it is, I've forgotten. It must not have been a big mistake. But for you, if it's like, if one nail is improperly put in the horseshoe in Lord of the Rings, you freak out.
I'll tell you one mistake I made, right?
What?
Imperius I had originally made out of wood. And then it gets infused, sun-forged, and becomes a sunicle. But I also said it was insanely thin, like only 1 millimeter at certain points. In hindsight, I realized that was a mistake because I did it for weight reduction, but if you actually have something metal that's only like 1 mil thick at certain points and even thinner at other points, the sword would be insanely light already, and there's no point in making it out of wood.
But if it was made out of wood and it was 1 millimeter thick, that'd be pretty wavy, wouldn't it?
But when this is another thing. I added a mechanic in the sunforging explanation in the book called crystallizing. If you crystallize something, it becomes hardened in its position. But if you sunforge something without crystallizing it, it can be indestructible but maintain its original malleability. context, okay?
Yeah.
And I also changed the fact that Imperius was originally made out of really thin sheet metal sharpened to a razor edge.
Okay.
See?
So,
But guess
Jack,
what?
since
I
you-
retconned it, and the second edition has that change.
But since you made that mistake in the first place, how dare you? You should be cancelled. You're not allowed to write books
Is
anymore.
that what I'm saying? That's
No.
clearly an equivalent.
It's not
but
what you're
you
saying.
know what I said?
But you say it with such passion
I know.
that it feels like that's what you're saying.
But
You're like,
guess what?
What an idiot! How about you just not make the
You
mistake?
were saying, like, we can't fix it. Yeah, you can.
No, my point is,
I
like,
fixed it.
my point is-
I fixed it, and now I'm releasing a second edition with that fix.
My point is, you're a film director. 1,000 things go wrong on the day. You're finally ready to film, and you're like, okay, what do we forget? Oh, historical guy. Hey, dude, how's this banner? Is that correct? He's like, no, it's the wrong error. We don't. It's not the correct sort of banner. It's not the right one. You're like, you know what? I don't care. I want banners flying in the wind.
I've already agreed with you on that point.
I know, but you didn't
So
agree
you're
the
a
overall
retard.
point. We'll let the audience, did he agree with me or not? Comments down below. Let's get back to the movie.
Yeah. Hey, they should be like. Have you seen game nights before?
Have you? If you're a first-time viewer,
Hey, welcome. This is what we do here.
Subscribe, like, ladies, comments down below.
So, they rescue Harlequin. Then, I'm not sure, I can't remember if they then kidnap the Peter Capaldi
Who's Peter Capaldi?
brain guy.
Oh.
If before or after they rescue Harlequin, I think it's before, I can't remember really. But anyway, then they break in and people are setting charges. Some people go underneath the ground. The charges go off early accidentally due to Polka Dot Man accidentally setting it off. And there's actually a kind of creative use of disjointed time sequence, you know? No, I liked it because it married up the events. Like, they set off the charges too soon, idiots. And then you might think, well, that's clearly just, you know, for the narrative to, you know... But no, it's shown how and why later on, whereas, like, 5 minutes ago or whatever, the other team are trying to set the charges and they get jumped and, you know...
Look, it's really hard to have gotten all of those different teams and characters doing these different things at different times to sync it all up into one, like, crescendo. So that's why they relied on the time jump, things like that. If you want to get it perfect, which would be almost impossible, you would time it so basically all the snap of the action, you know what I mean? Like when things flip in their favor.
You know, I preferred it this way. There were so many things happening in the different groups that if you tried to show the events transpiring chronologically, where you jump with, like, it would be too jumpy. You're like, jump this for, you know, 30 seconds to a minute, jump to that, jump back, while each kind of group is progressing at the same chronology.
Yeah.
It was much better to stick with one group, see the flowing story evolve with the conflict of Peacemaker and all that stuff happening underground, and then you know, pausing there, going back to the other group and seeing how it marries up. I think that works better.
Yeah, but those action sequences are all about solving problems, right? Now, like, for example, let's go back to Brandon Sanderson, because he's a master at this. In the final, like, 15 minutes...
No spoilers, Roy.
No spoilers, right? But in the final 15 minutes of a particular book, the first set that I read, you know how they have all these armies on top of them. You have the heroes basically almost dead. One of them is dead.
Yeah.
You have the world about to explode.
Yeah, and he does jump
and he
between...
manages to get it all together at once.
Yeah, he does jump between scenes, I do agree there.
Yeah.
But he lets the scene play out thematically enough
Yeah.
for an actual event to transpire that you follow. And I'd say it's almost in a similar way that it's done in Suicide Squad. It's only like 5 minutes in the narrative, and then he jumps...
Yeah, but for me, personally... and
I mean, I think the only difference in Suicide Squad, they actually have the text saying so many minutes ago. Because when Brandon jumps to another scene, he doesn't say so many minutes ago, but you know just by the progression, this is obviously what's happening during what...
That is what it is for me. If it didn't have the 5 minutes earlier, 8 minutes earlier, all that stuff, if it didn't have that and just showed it, I would have been fine with that.
See, that's weird.
Yeah, no, because that's the thing. When they say this many minutes earlier, it's reminding me, oh yeah, okay, so you're just going to show me stuff that's happened before.
I agree, it's probably not needed, because you would understand just
your brain would
by
make the
context.
gap, you know? Your brain would put it together.
But that's one of the flares that they do through the whole film. They have, like, obvious kind of texture, like that they blend into the environment, saying, this is happening now, you know, Harlequin's story, or like, they even had one where it changed, where I forget, I was rescuing someone and then it changed, or rescuing someone else, or something like that. And so it was just an attempt at comedic kind of nodding to the fourth wall.
If I can do a better job, I'm actually going to, because I've downloaded the movie, I'm going to try, not while I'm working, right, but later on tonight, I'm going to try editing that into a better, more, like what I would, you know, and you tell me if it's better or not.
Just cut the part where you downloaded the film.
Legally downloaded the film on iTunes.
I see what you're seeing there. Arr.
Okay, Shad's a pirate now for some reason. What be a pirate's favourite letter?
Hey, I don't know why. I just felt like you were sailing the seven seas for a moment.
Oh!
Betty drops.
Yes. Piracy. Why is the rum always gone?
I need a drink. Hey, Nathan, can you get me a drink?
Do you need water or?
Yeah, water would be great. Oh, water. Hey.
It's fresh.
Yeah, so... Oh, man. How heartbreaking was it when Starro's dying and he's like, I was happy floating, staring at the stars.
Oh, no, like, Starro, I felt was done really well for a number of things. One, they didn't try and make it look any less goofy than what he really... Like, they embraced the goofiness, like, it's fluoro colours, looks really out of place. And then at the same time, they made it feel really gross and creepy. Like, it looked fleshy. And so it was done really, really well. And it was gross. And like when the little stars are spewing...
That creeped me out.
It felt like it was...
The flood from Halo?
Oh. But these little,
Tendrils?
things being squirted out of the thing was just... Ew, yeah.
Yeah, it was gross. It was icky. I don't want anything touching my face. I've seen Alien too many times. I'm good. Yeah. No.
And look, again, little bits of criticism like they latch onto everyone except the heroes because they were the only ones smart enough to cover their face.
Yeah.
Really?
And also, why didn't the heroes, the people that got infected by that thing, why didn't they pick up their guns? You know, that would have been cooler. In Halo, that's what happens.
All right, and then once they land on the ground, these other ones are just impotent. Like
impotent.
he bullets load and had no more.
Yeah.
It would be problematic for the story if they could jump up and latch onto people because then, like, legitimately, how would the hero survive? Because they're constantly trying. But that would also be more realistic because otherwise, like, the one-shot wonder, it's like, and the miss. And
way you could fix that problem is if Starro deliberately doesn't infect them because, from his perspective, they helped Starro escape,
That's one. I think there are better ways to justify it, even dumb ways. Like, the brain guy, right? He said he had a way to control him, and then he instantly gets killed. And you're like...
Yeah.
Why? It seemed like he had nothing. If they found little vials that made them, repellent to the sucky faces thing that the guy developed, it's perfectly in line with the story. They were in the position to find them, and there was limited uses, so they only give them to their team. Problem solved. Done.
Sure, okay, yeah. It's not more ridiculous than a gigantic walking starfish, I'll give you that.
It actually is less ridiculous because it makes thematic sense and through line, and it also gives more purpose for the Peter Capaldi character, because right now he's just there as the scientist that we don't know what he actually did.
Yeah, I guess.
He just tested and mutilated people and got killed, and it's like, I'm the only one who knows how to control it. It's like, oh really? Dead?
Yeah.
Great control. See? I'm a better writer than...
Well, hurry up and do some more writing then.
I know. I was really up myself, but it was just a simple fix. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, why can't... And I actually don't think you need to be a great writer to come up with an idea like that to fix it.
Well, ideas are cheap. It's the execution.
Well, this is the problem. Like, why can't people come up with such simple ideas then? That's my confusion. It's like, it's not hard.
Because, Chad, we're not all as smart as you. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to say it doesn't require anyone smart to do it.
Yeah, I know, but Chad, my point is that you're like, why can't people just do things that are better?
I know, right?
Why can't you just do better? Because people aren't perfect, None of us are perfect. Except for me. I know when I'm right.
Alright, so...
Testing Chad's patience here.
What did you say?
I said I'm testing Chad's patience here. For the whole, look, Chad, we're not all as smart as you.
But hang on, how would that test my patience if I wasn't even paying attention to it?
Yes, because you're clearly not... Let's move on. No one else heard that?
Heard what?
Let's just move on.
Okay, so... Yeah, then they escape the sucker mini-stars. They try and shoot the thing. And
Bloodsport.
Tell you what, like, Bloodsport is pretty useless in this fight.
Yeah, he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, just like...
He gets fought one by one by the little drone people.
Nothing much. Polka Dot Man dies. He did a bigger moment where he took out one of the starfish's legs.
What if
and
he
then
aimed for the eye? You know, would have killed it instantly.
he doesn't seem like he's a good aim, and that's actually already established because he's the one that actually set off the bombs because he couldn't aim them right. This is one of those irreverent movies where someone died. He was kind of a fun character. I'm not sure how much was it worth killing off. Maybe just a shock valve. I don't know, but
He died happy. Well, I mean, to be fair, he has little polka dots he can shoot out at any time that go through literally anything, right? They had to get rid of it. He could fix every problem. If the problems in this universe are, okay, we need to send supervillains to kill stuff.
Admit it, you probably got as much out of that character as you could.
Yeah.
You've established that he shoots polka dots, he has issues with his mum, and, you find out what he does, and then, look, you probably could do more with the character by giving him something new to try and deal with.
What if you could make one big polka dot?
Learn something about his powers, like a giant polka dot or something.
Spirit bomb.
But they decided to just off him is done now.
What annoyed me is what was the point of Harley Quinn jumping into the eye when she did nothing in there?
She opened up the hole that allowed the rats into the eye.
Oh, okay.
That's what they were trying to say.
Okay.
Because the rats seemingly wouldn't be able to chew through the eye, which may,
They couldn't chew through the membrane of an eye. Why could they chew through the membrane of the starfish?
It's a good question, but maybe the membrane of the eye is stronger, and it required the staff.
Remember when they were shooting the bullets at the starfish, and none of the bullets went through the eye?
But we don't know how special the javelin thing is.
Yeah, true. Might be made of super metal.
Special,
might be just super sharp.
Special stabby metal that enables you to specifically pierce through starfish eye membranes.
Yeah. Well, all metal's sharp enough. No, wrong way.
But this is special metal.
Yeah. Well.
Special.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Rat Girl summons, the most insane amount of rats imaginable, which is
all of the rats.
There's so many. They're covering the entire length of multiple streets in multiple layers, in waves.
That amount of body heat.
Waves of rats.
Yeah.
It's just, no. What? Where did they come from? Gosh. It's insane.
Where did they go?
Yeah, every single wall of every single building would have to have been filled wall to wall, no space, with rats.
And the sewers.
The entire sewers, no
jungles.
Space, just full of rats. The jungles, that's the amount where they'd have to be hiding for that many rats to have appeared. It's insane.
There's a lot of rats.
So that's a lot of rats. So that actually was and. Obviously, they did it for the dramatic thing. I think the goals could have been achieved with a realistic amount of rats, but it wouldn't have looked as cool. So if you really, really want it to look cool, you could add desperate. Just give something in a power that the staff glowy thing can just summon rats. Problem solved. Plot hole avoided.
Well, I mean, they showed panning shots.
They could have set it up. It's she's used rats before, and someone could ask her where are all these rats coming from? And she just tries to brush it off. It doesn't matter. And then it's and then they're in a car, and suddenly 5-10 rats comes where did those? We're in a car. They couldn't have just appeared from the ground. We're driving or something like that. Yeah, they build up where are you getting these rats? And it's revealed that her powers are a bit more. She's actually calling them from all over the world. They can just portal to her.
Sure.
They're
it requires some interruptions though.
No, but you could make it enhance the story with some comedic kind of strange things, add to her evolution. It could have revealed a bit more about her father. That father was actually crazy scientist was working on a teleportation device that was supposed to be linked to a specific genome, and instead of picking human, he accidentally picked rats.
You see how many extra hoops you have to make?
It's not that hard. You could achieve it with a couple of lines.
But it's not what they did.
And for that,
I can tell you why there's a mistake of too many rats. I can tell you why.
Right.
Because when they were doing the special effects, there's let's say, I don't know, 10,000 rats kill this big starfish, right? That's what the director told them. Give me 10,000 rats to kill the starfish. Then they show the cuts, it doesn't look like there's that many. Give us more rats. We need to see there's lots of rats.
I said that.
Yeah.
To look cool. They wanted it to look really impressive. Yeah. And I feel you could try it. This is why I hate it when they do stupid things just for the flashiness. a much worse example, but also a better example of let's do something cool with no logical justification.
Yeah.
It's in The Last Jedi, where the Emperor raises an entire fleet of starships buried in the ground. They did it because they wanted this dramatic, cool look of starships bursting out of the ground like zombies. But why? Why were they buried? There's not, like, why?
Shad, every
And
time.
this is the thing, right? It is so dumb that instead of elevating the film for a cool visual, it ruins the film just in this part because it's so astronomically dumb. Okay?
Yeah.
And so this is pushing it to an extreme example. I don't think the Rats example is that extreme, but it's clearly the same thing where they just wanted something cool without logically justifying it. The Rise of Skywalker is the example why you should try and logically justify these, because if you don't, you can end up making one of the most stupid things in the film.
Well, I don't think that was cool in The Rise of Skywalker.
It was visually impressive.
I don't think
It looked
so.
great. I think it, totally, it was for the visual.
like rising out of the ground looked cool, but in context, that made no sense.
That's my point. And technically, the Rats thing makes no sense. It doesn't make as much ridiculous no sense, right, as the Rise of Skywalker example, but it's in the exact same vein of reasoning. And they try to justify it because it's cool, and because it's not as extreme. Most people just ignore it, but it was dumb for me. And again, my point why you should justify it is because in the extreme, it can ruin films.
Okay.
Just
But
like Rise of Skywalker. And by the way, that wasn't the only,
Please do
there was
not.
so much that ruined that.
Every single time you bring up Rise of Skywalker is the first time I remember it. Because my brain has cut it out. Because I get PTSD every
It's
time I'm
like
reminded of
the
it.
most prime case study of just bad movies.
No, not
could
bad
all-
movies. Just bad.
Just bad.
It's an example of bad.
Oh, so much bad.
You've got World War II events, and then you have Rise of Skywalker just underneath it. Just underneath it by about that much. Tell you what.
So, yeah, the Suicide Squad, far from perfect. Still many things to enjoy in it, which is why I give it a 6. And honestly, that is a far higher rating that I've given to recent media. Like, there have been some good recent media, like Invincible, I really enjoyed.
Sure.
It's
got its
not
problems.
perfect, I'm not saying, but much better. I think it's a lot better than Suicide Squad. Invincible's, I would call Invincible good.
Dude, the first Suicide Squad made me want to commit suicide.
The thing is, though, because I'm giving the Suicide Squad a 6, that is on the side of good.
Yeah.
So I'm technically saying it's
I'd give it a 7.
barely good.
My
So it's
only
okay.
issues
And
are pacing.
You know,
Pacing's my only issue with that one.
it's enjoyable enough. It's enjoyable enough that it's not one that I would suggest you go out of your way to avoid.
It could have been 2 movies.
No, I think the
Harley Quinn
overall arc,
subplot.
I thought that was fine. And Harley Quinn was one of the more fun elements of it.
Yeah,
So
but still, just the pacing was a bit much for me, and it was really long. Yeah.
there we go. This has been our ultra rambly with many diversions in discussion, review, and things.
They're used to it by now.
Yeah, hopefully you are. Of not Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad. Like
We are the
because
Game
clearly,
Boss.
like you would know the distinction.
Yeah.
Because I never called Suicide Squad the Suicide Squad in any instance, and I've never called the Suicide Squad just Suicide Squad because the distinction is so clear. I would never make that mistake.
Yeah. They should just decanonize the first one.
It's like they were trying to, but they didn't. They
Yeah, it's a soft reboot.
Well, they brought in characters from the last movie.
Yeah.
Harlequin and Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
So you can't say it's decanonized
It's
then.
a soft reboot. Just like Halo Infinite is a soft reboot of Halo.
Yeah. All right, so thank you for watching, guys. We've been the Game Knights, and now we wish you good night.
Good night.